I am Pelleas. I may be a prince of Dayan, but I was raised as a normal commoner. It still doesn't feel real to me that I could be the son of King Ashnard.
Our Grand Hero battle unit for the CYO5 banner is going to be Pelleas. Unlike last year, Pelleas didn't score that high in the voting, but he did come in a respectable 99th. To be honest, a lot of the characters ahead of him not in the game yet include the Ashen Wolves and Tokimura Session characters. Those are probably a bit more of a unique case to get into face, so Pelleas didn't come in completely out of nowhere. He's from Radiant Dawn and is supposedly the orphan son of the Mad King Ashnard, which would make him next in line for ruling over Dayan. As a unit, Pelleas will be a Red Infantry Mage. They are really committed to making Dark Mages only red units in this game, and boy does Fire Emblem have a lot of Dark Mages. For stats, Pelleas will have 43 HP, 40 attack, 36 speed, 21 defense, and 31 resistance. Like the CYO5 mages, Pelleas will also come with the Gen 6 BST, so at the very least he'll lead the free-to-play group in terms of base stat totals for now. Normally we see a lot of slower or below average speed red mages, but Pelleas will have a respectable 36 base speed. That is not bad at all considering he comes with a whopping 40 base attack, and he has an attack super boon. Now that is pretty spicy for a free to play mage. For his defensive stats, Pelleas will have the usual low defense with high res focus, and 43 base HP is pretty decent. We'll be talking about stats a lot because, well, that's sort of Pelleas' standout trait. Maybe Pelleas should have employed questionable voting campaign tactics because apparently that gets you a unique weapon. Unfortunately, our Prince of Dayan will only come with an Inheritable Tome, but it is a new one at least. Pelleas will introduce the Red Lion Tome Plus into the game. It's not a Fury 3 tome, but instead a brand new type of weapon. At the start of the turn, grant plus 6 attack to adjacent allies for 1 turn. At the start of combat, if the foe has more than 75% HP, grant plus 5 attack and res during combat. So, the Lion Tomes actually are similar to Lin's Aura and Delthia's Dark Aura. Those tomes grant a plus 6 attack field buff to adjacent allies, but only for certain weapon types. Lion Tomes don't care who you are, you're gonna get plus 6 attack. Aura and Dark Aura also grant a plus 5 attack and speed boost, and that's their refine. The Lion Tome's gonna trade speed for res, but it does have a somewhat high HP condition for the enemy. It will mainly be targeted at fighting full health foes. So, do we finally have a good Inheritable Red Tome besides Unity Blooms? Well, the Lion Tomes are a hybrid support / combative weapon. That's an interesting take, but again, it's another tome that only focuses on attack and res for the user. We had Arate's Rabbit Tome, which is just Summer Lorenza's Contra Bouquet, and Summer Mercedes' Peach Parfait also just focuses on resistance. They're not terrible options, but Pelleas would love to flex his offensive stats a bit, and our only offensive red tome with speed involved is pretty much the Fox Tome. The Red Lion Tome isn't that bad, but it is part support weapon. Honestly, it's a rather decent effect. It's basically Hone Attack 3.5. It's not flashy, but you can easily slap this on any unit if you want a support build. Plus 5 attack and res on healthy foes is okay, but the HP condition is something to watch out for. If your team isn't getting clean kills, then you may not get any combative stats from this weapon. There was something interesting the data miners found with this update, and it was an unknown tome. I think this is worth mentioning because the symbol on the tome is somewhat familiar. Pelleas is supposedly the Prince of Dayan, and guess what the Dayan emblem / crest looks like. It's a dragon looking figure, and as you can see on the left, you can't say the emblem on this tome isn't similar. Was this a scrapped unique tome for Pelleas? I would say it's plausible considering the timing. Now apparently according to the name of the file, it could be a colorless tome. A lot of people are guessing that if this weapon wasn't for Pelleas, then maybe it could be for a possible legendary Micaiah this month. In Radiant Dawn, Micaiah teams up with Pelleas, and he makes her one of the leaders in the Dayan Liberation Army. Micaiah still has one class outfit left, and that's her Light Sage outfit. A lot of blue with red jewels, just like on the book. Nothing is confirmed, but use that information as you will. Back to Pelleas' base kit, he comes with Miracle as his special. Boy do I love pre-charged miracles on these Grand Hero battle maps. For his A skill, Pelleas has Brazen Attack and Speed 3, plus 7 attack and speed when under 80% HP. Brazens are quite powerful, but obviously you need to get hurt first before they kick in. Doesn't do much good if you got all the extra attack and speed if you're gonna die in one more hit though. Generally, Brazen Attack and Speed is paired with Desperation, and that would do fine for Pelleas. Also a bit suspicious that he had a Brazen skill with an Inheritable Lion Tome. Maybe it was a Fury 3 tome at some point. For his C skill, Pelleas brings attack and res 03. If you start the turn next to an ally, you get plus 5 attack and res. Solid self-buffing skill, super easy to use, and it goes nicely with the Lion Tome since you want to buff your allies anyway. Basically, Pelleas gives his teammates plus 6 attack, and he'll gain plus 5 attack and res for himself. Not bad. Attack and res Oath is actually pretty hard to get normally since it's only on 3 limited time units. It's a nice skill for foddering. In general, Pelleas' kit has synergy between the Rauðrlion Tome and Attack and Res Oath. Stick with the team, give them attack buffs, and Pelleas is going to stack up to plus 10 attack and res himself. Brazen Tag and speed is nice, but generally if you run a Desperation build, you just use it in the Sacred Soul slot, and you take something like Fury 3 instead for upfront stats. Not the craziest base kit, but not terrible either. For merging, if you keep the neutral nature, Pelleas will get plus 1 HP, attack and resistance. I think it's pretty hard to pass up on the attack super boon, but Pelleas could also do fine with some extra bonus speed. Honestly, if you do invest in him, you can pump up his attack with the super boon, then use skills to fill in his other stats. So there are a lot of Red Infantry Mage Grand Hero battle units. They heard us complaining about gimmicky unique weapons, so our last 2 Red Mages didn't get any at all. Luckily for Pelleas, he escapes the slow Red Mage archetype and has very high base attack as well. For heroic grow options, he is clearly head and shoulders above everyone else in terms of offensive stats. He may sacrifice some res, but if you wanted to, he's not the worst off with a defensive build either. Pelleas doesn't have a unique tome to his name, so base stats are pretty much his main selling point. In terms of low variety summonable options, Pelleas will face some competition here. Male, Morgan, and Tharja both got their refines, and they are pretty decent for being older units. We did get 3 devoted Red Infantry Mages within the last year: Urk, Miranda, and Noel. Pelleas will mainly be competing with Urk if you're looking for a speedy mage. Urk's going to have 3 more base speed with a speed super boon. However, Pelleas has 5 more base attack with an attack super boon. Generally, getting the double is more important, so Urk definitely still has a place. However, if you're a fan of big damage, then Pelleas does bring some firepower with him. He can certainly make a speed build work as well. Now, compared to Miranda and Noel, Pelleas basically outclasses them in everything but resistance. He's a very solid free-to-play unit if you prefer to spend heroic rails. Now for builds utilizing Pelleas' base kit, you could try to get cute with Vanish. Once he drops into Brazing range, you'll get the extra speed for doubling, but if you're facing an attacker, maybe Vanish can get a KO first. The Lion Tome adds plus 5 attack, Brazen is plus 7 attack, Attack and Res Oath is another plus 5, and you can get an attack boosting Sacred Seal like attack and defense form. I don't know if you want to keep Miracle, but if Pelleas can get some doubles in, then he may be able to proc it to stay alive. Otherwise, you can use the usual Glimmer Iceberg specials. As mentioned before, if you want a cheap, fast Red Mage, Pelleas can definitely run the Fury, Desperation, and Brazen Attack and Speed build. Go for a speed refine his weapon, and he's decently fast while being able to keep the Lion Tome for support buffing. Speaking of which, you can also play more into the buffing capabilities of this weapon. Pelleas can simply run a rally buff, or you could try a Link B skill to get self buffs as well. For example, you could use speed and defense Link, so Pelleas can buff all his stats if you keep Attack and Res Oath. He would then be able to buff 3 stats for another ally. Infantry Rush is an interesting support skill here since we are giving out plus 6 attack buffs. Otherwise, you could just go with Drive Attack or a Spur. For combative skills, we do have Speed and Res Bond and Speed and Res Form A skills if you wanted to bump up those stats. We also have a ton of Bond Sacred Seals if you want to stick with the teammates. The Lion Tome is decent for a lot of playstyles since it's a hybrid support weapon. Pelleas can use offensive skills thanks to his stats, but you could also just stack more attack and res if you wanted. If you have premium skills, then you could do a more expensive support build with the Lion Tome attack buffs. Pelleas could run with the Rally plus Ruse combo. Then since he's buffing himself with Attack and Res Oath, you could run the new Ideal A skills. They are quite hard to get still, but these provide lots of stats for both phases with no positioning requirements, and Pelleas could use things like the attack and defense variant if you want to bump up his lower defense stat. Of course, if you would prefer a more player phase build to take advantage of Pelleas' attack and speed, then it's hard to top the Red Fox Tome. Minus for all stats on the enemy when initiating is simple, but you can just pile on more attack and speed for more damage output, so Spare or attack and speed solo are fine. No follow up or low speed and res are good if you aren't running Desperation. Then for C skills, the meta skills are such a pain, and if it does land, then Pelleas can still get his attack and res buffs. For those looking for burst damage, you could try a special focused build. Special Spiral with Glimmer is pretty simple to use once it gets going, and Pelleas could also try the AoE special spam build as well. You would need Heavy Blade, and I'm not sure what the best tome would be to run with this, but we really only care about more flat attack. In regards to other offensive tomes, you could try a Blade Tome. They're still very powerful, but the presence of lulls has greatly hampered their consistency. Still fine options though. If you want a cheap cavalry counter, you could bust out the Wolf Tome and just run Deathblow skills. If you'd like to run Unity Blooms Plus, it is a more defensive option, but Pelleas could make it work for a mixed phase setup. He has a ton of attack already with okay speed, so you could then focus on buffing up his defense and res stats. You could even run something like a Unity A skill or a tier 3 dose stance with a low B skill. You can get very flexible with the build. So, should you promote Pelleas to 5 stars? Well, as a hero Red Infantry Mage, Pelleas has standout attack and speed stats, highest attack easily among any free-to-play options, and the Red Mage class in general is pretty slow, so 36 base speed is actually kind of fantastic to start off with. Now, unfortunately, Pelleas does not have a unique tome, but the Rauðrlion tome is at least brand new. It's a different kind of support/combative hybrid that isn't that bad at all. One attack 3.5 is honestly pretty good, and you can get a +5 attack and res boost as well. Not insane, but interesting. As for attack and res oath, it's a rather easy to use self-buffing skill, but it's actually quite rare to get. I would have liked to suggest this skill for many other free-to-play units, but it's so hard to get normally, and now Pelleas at least brings it as an option. If you're looking for a solid offensive Red Mage, then Pelleas is one of the best free-to-play options. He has the newest Gen 6 BST, and his main competition is going to be Urk, who focuses a bit more on speed. The lack of strong inheritable red tomes once again hurts, especially for a faster mage like Pelleas. The Fox tome is okay, but it's all in on player phase initiations. Unity Blooms is great for defensive builds, but you need a limited time unit. If you didn't pull Henriette on the Hero Fest, you're going to have to wait quite a while. I would say Pelleas does his best with what he has to work with, but he's certainly not a must-have. We have a sizable amount of Gen 5 Red Infantry Mages that are summable if you're looking for a mage project, but Pelleas will be that heroic grow option. He could have been really good, I think, if they gave him a half-decent offensive unique tome, but it is what it is. Let me know your thoughts on Pelleas. Maybe share your builds if you want to use him. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.